Okay, good evening and welcome. My name is Kay, or Kayleen, and I'm the founder of StartUpcreative. And before we start tonight, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet tonight, the Wiradjuri people of the Kulin Nation and the Bunurong people as well, on the land of which we rest and create and work and share stories. So we pay our respects to their elders, both past and present, and acknowledge any First Nations people in the room tonight. Welcome, nice to be here. Lovely to have you all, and thanks for coming out on this freezing night. I'm so honoured to be presenting Make Your Mark, how to market your business online, powered by Squarespace and StartUpcreative. Big thanks to Alex from Squarespace and her team who've worked so hard to pick beautiful flowers and everything that has made tonight amazing. So tonight we're going to discuss how to market your business online. We've got three incredible panellists. We've got Bobby Clark, artist, mother, wife, photographer, and hilarious Scottish woman. They're heavily pregnant and is going to bring all the lols. Thank you for being here, Bobby. Give her a big round of applause.
I'm going to forget to use this. You're going to need people.
Oh, yeah, I will. When I go like this, yeah. Dr. Chris Cheers, who's also an author, and if anyone else, I now live in Sydney, but I will say that I was here for lockdown for a year, and so I share your trauma. And if it wasn't for Dr. Chris Cheers and his Instagram account talking about his psychologist, explaining a lot and translating a lot of psychology into day-to-day language, and has an incredible community, is a psychologist, is a lecturer, is an author, and a legend. It was on Triple J recently. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I'll stick with legend. Let's just start there. Yeah.
And I have to read this out because somebody said something before to me and they were like, oh, Club Sup's here tonight. And they were like, oh, Club Sup is iconic in Melbourne. So if you don't know Club Sup, now you do. It's iconic. And this is the incredible Sophie, who's the founder of Club Sup, which is supper club dinners and connections in real life, adults making friends, which isn't that easy to do. So there's a niche there, clearly, that's working.
Yeah, I mean, iconic in Melbourne, but maybe Sydney soon. I don't know. You can help me.
She's a Sydney gal.
Yeah.
And welcome, Sophie, to our panel. Can you? Awesome. So all of these guys have online brands. You may or may not know them. Do go and follow them. They're Squarespace customers, but they also have amazing things that they do offline as well. So tonight, if we've got creative entrepreneurs, small businesses in the room, we're going to drill these guys on how they did it and what tips they have for you guys. And we'll have a chance for questions at the end as well. So if there's anything that pops up, feel free. I will actually say we are filming and recording and taking photos and Instagramming. So if you don't want to be in any of that, please let someone know and we'll respect that as well. Cool. All right, let's jump into it. First things first, if your brand was a cocktail, what would it be? Yeah.
Well, I can't answer what my brand would be, but I would love a margarita right now. That's what got me pregnant. Legit.
So Bobby Clark. Bobby Clark is a margarita. Oh, yeah, spicy. I love spicy margarita.
No, not spicy. I can't
just
do
OG.
Spicy.
Yeah.
I can't even eat like sweet chili.
Salt
like
on top?
chips.
Salted rim?
No.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
A cocktail. I think I'd be more like a champagne, but like probably more like sparkling wine, because the brands hopefully are pretty accessible. I guess I try to do, but maybe but I like to think myself more of a champagne person. So maybe, but probably sparkling wine.
So like mental health plan.
Yeah.
Like get deductions. Yeah.
Mental health plan and a glass of champs on the side.
Sounds good.
I think I was thinking about this, and I think it was going to be like an old-fashioned, because connecting the old-fashioned way in real life. But I definitely think it's also just something mixed, which makes sense because mingling.
Yeah, you see dim lighting, sit around, have a dinner.
Like nothing straight, nothing on ice.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, too serious.
Yeah,
that's
too
business.
serious. Yeah.
That's like the commons.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that what we might jump into here is like, how did you start your businesses? Because, Bobby as an artist, Chris, I mean, you're a psychologist that has built a personal brand as well, and maybe we'll go along the line, but starting with you, Sophie, where did your brand idea business come from? Tell us a little bit more about it for those who don't know it. And how did you get started?
It kind of feels like the longest story, but it started when I was in my early 20s and I was moved to Melbourne and I couldn't find anywhere cool and fun to like make friends, and then like had a break up and I was a bit like, oh crap, I have like 2 friends. And then I kind of lived on that life for a little while and it was quite sad and lonely. And then the pandemic happened, and the way the pandemic happened, I was supposed to move overseas, and then obviously I didn't. But it meant that I moved into a share house that it did actually change my life in so many ways. And I met like the loves of my life, basically. And I just realized, like, I don't know, it like taught me to be a different and I think a better person. And I was like, oh, this love and this like, I don't know, amazingness from this connection has like made me want to be a better person, and like I've, had more confidence or whatever, and I just wanted everyone to have that feeling, because I think that it was a bit dicey for us as a community to only get that from romantic love, because we all know how that ends. Like, especially if it's not in a, especially if it's not in a really healthy romantic way. And I just kept thinking about like, every time you're in a romantic relationship or you're doing something, like your platonic loves are always there for you. And then that's how I started it. I just was like, there has to be something. And I thought that definitely in the pandemic, like my age group at the time, like I was 25, 26, like there was so much community that I'd never seen before. And then I was like, to excuse my French, I was like, fuck this. Like, we are not going to go into like our late 20s and into our early 30s just like ghosting one another and like just being shit. And so I was like, right, we're all having dinner and you're all coming and you're all making friends. And then that's just how it started. We had, 2 dinners, and it was like I'd signed myself up for like a massive Hinge date. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to talk to all these people about? And then, that was 2021, and now it's 2024, and we host in Sydney and Melbourne like 5 times a month.
Incredible. Yeah. Well done. Love it. Thanks, Sophie. Chris, good segue.
That sounds so great. I feel like we're on a friend date right now.
Yeah.
This is
we're all on a friend date.
Platonic love by the end. My, I guess, brand started like the best ones from deep trauma. So I was in deep, dark lockdown, if you were there with me. And I guess I was going through it, for lack of a better way to say it. But I was also a psychologist, and we're meant to be able to help people who were going through it. And I was trying to help myself, and some days it was going well, some days it wasn't. And I thought, I looked at my wait list, like a lot of psychologists just had. Couldn't see the number of people who wanted to see me. I couldn't help the number of people I wanted to help. And I'm not a tech person. I'm not a social media person before this, but where I came from was like, this little thing in my pocket, I think could help lots of people right now. So I literally, and it came from a WhatsApp thread with friends. I gave them strategies. They were going through something, and I was like, oh, you could try this. And they were like, oh, that was really helpful. You should tell people about that. So I turned that WhatsApp message into a post. That was my first post. And what I wanted to do from the beginning was to let people know that I'm a psychologist and I'm going through it as well. And this is really hard. And what I came to realize is a lot of psychs don't do that. We're taught to not be real. We're taught to be kind of like a blank canvas that we're meant to just be fine. And what I came to know is how helpful it was for people to see that authenticity, to see that I'm a human too. I'm just trying to work it out. This is what I'm doing to help. Maybe it'll help you too. And that's where that started. And then really from the beginning, I've just wanted to be as authentic as possible, but also use what I know, which is like evidence-based psychological strategies to help. And that's sort of led to the brand, led to the writing, and that sort of led to where we are today.
I mean, what year was that?
2020, deep, dark. Oh, yeah, and I don't know, what is time? 2020, 2021, they're all just one dark, like, amoeba of like, bleh, in there somewhere. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Chris. Amazing.
Me?
Bobby, yeah.
Hi.
How'd you start Bobby Clark?
Instagram is so boring, but it is. But it started obviously a long time before that. I studied for a really long time, and I guess you don't ever see that part. I studied in Scotland, in Manchester, came here, couldn't get a job, fresh off the boat, not a boat. Worked in retail, hated my life, and then started working at Pop and Scott, which was like a creative workshop. And they had these like mad pots that went nuts, and I was painting triangles on pots. Watched a documentary about Picasso and literally just started painting shapes on paper, posted one on Instagram and it sold. And then that's kind of how it happened. And I am a complete oversharer. Talk to me for 3 seconds, you'll know everything about me. Like, I can't hold anything back. I just can't. So Instagram was like the perfect platform for me to just like share everything apart from my dinner. And then it just naturally happened. Like, people wanted to buy stuff. It was actually my friends. I'd started a Squarespace, can't say it, website, and there was nothing to buy on it. And my friend, who I am not technical, so if I can make a website, anyone can make a website. I am useless. And he was like, babe, you've got like 40,000 people on your website and you've not got like a single thing to buy. I was like, yeah, cool, sweet. So I'm not that great at it, so it clearly happened by sheer luck and just oversharing.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think like the common denominator seems like you've all been like, oh, you know, I'm an artist and I can do this for myself, and you know, these are the things that I need. How did you go? Like, that's nice, and everyone's got an idea. As like a business coach, most people, like even in a pub on a Friday night, are like, I've got an idea for a side hustle. And you're like, yeah, everyone does. But how do you go about translating that to a brand that people can buy, that people like Chris? I'm interested because as someone who's like, I'm not a social media person. I think you've nearly 30,000 followers. Not that that number means anything, but it's. I mean, it does, because it's a community of people who are like, we want to. What you have to say. That's a brand that you've built. That's something that people can get on board and say, I want to follow and be a part of that. And like, so for you, taking it from I'm going to make all my friends be friends to, you know, you've had some incredible collaborations of late as well with Kit, I think, from Mecca and stuff. But yeah, and you bounce amongst yourselves about how do you do that?
I'm going to say the thing that Nike's the slogan, just fucking do it. They don't say fucking, but just do it. And everyone always asks me, it's like me and my husband, because we're both self-employed. It's like, you can talk about something till the cows come home, but you've just got to fucking do it. And that's it. Find a way to do it.
Yeah.
I get really sick of talking. My husband loves fucking talking. And he'll talk and talk and talk. And listen to him, he went into business with this guy and they would just talk and talk and talk. I'm like, just fucking do it. Like, just do it. But stop conceptualizing and talking about all these things. Like, actually do it. If you do it and it's shit, do something else.
Yeah.
You should be a psychologist, I think. I wish I could talk to clients like that, but secretly that's kind of...
I would just go, get over it.
Yeah.
I'd be so shit. Get over it. Move
Sometimes
on.
it's what people need to hear. Yeah, but mine's kind of similar. Mine is good enough for now. That's my thing. So, because part of my brain always wants to like, oh, it could be better, or you could do it better, or you could learn how to do it. It's like, this is good enough for now, and then there will be another time in the future where it will get better. And also to stay in your lane has been my big motto recently, because there's a lot of lanes you could go down online. And I learned early on what my lane was I'm a psychologist. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to make my writing feel like a therapy session, because that's what I do, right? Most of my work is one-to-one therapy with people. It was a lot more back then. So my posts have always been like a therapy session. So they start off with something that validates your... I probably shouldn't tell you this, because then it kind of gives it away and it won't work anymore. But they start with something that validates how you're feeling, because we all want that. And then they give you some sort of sense of psychological idea or theory about why you're feeling like that, why it's normal. And then they end with something practical that you should do. And if you ever want to change, in your life or help someone change, do that. Start with validation, tell them why what they feel makes sense, why it's normal, and then give them something that they might like to try or some advice at the end. So that was my lane, and that's kind of where I've stayed in all my writing and all my posts.
I think there's something about that too, which is like when you're telling that formula is that people like that was my experience of your brand was like, be like, okay, what would Chris say? You know, like you end up having that conversation because you're trying to decode it. So you're actually empowering a community as well and making change one to many as well, which I think, and that's a physical experience that someone go, oh, that really helped my life. I'm going to come back for more.
And also how often people feel like they know me,
Yeah.
you know, and this is a common thing. But you'll see, and this is one thing psychologists do, we don't disclose a lot. We don't have a lot of self-disclosure. I don't share a lot of my personal information online. But what I do share is my emotions. What I do share is my identities, being queer, being poly, being a psychologist. I share my identities and I share my emotions, and I think sharing those things and validating others makes them feel like they know you and you're there with them. And I think I've noticed that power of empathy. I've always been very interested in how do you make empathy work online, because I feel like so much of social media is absence of empathy. So I always think about how can I bring empathy into this space. And it's hard, but it's possible, I would say.
Amazing. Thanks, Chris.
I think, like for the club, having like a background in fashion and working for small businesses and large businesses, when I started my own, I just needed to have complete autonomy over everything. Like I never wanted to have to like outsource a single thing really, because like you can't, like I've just watched businesses try to communicate what they're trying to do and then it kind of regurgitate back and they're like, no, that's not what we are. And I just wanted the control of, having my brand look exactly how I wanted it to look. And I guess because it is from my own personal story of those feelings, I know what everyone who's coming to the club feels. So I wanted it, like I constantly feel like I'm selling to myself. Like I'm like, if I was a punter with like my hard earned and I wanted to, take my vulnerable experience and come to a Clubs Up event, like what would it take me? And that's, I think that with my website, like that's why we use film imagery, because anything else like digitally just looks too staged and too like clean. And that's why the club, that's all we used to do. Like I had the most expensive Instagram going around because like everything was film. And so just creating like a really strong vibe and then being able to like execute it exactly how I wanted to, I think is like, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like both sitting down and being like, what is my, where am I going to sit? And how can I do that authentically and stick at it and stand out as well?
Yeah.
Bobby, I'm interested as an artist because I think, a lot of creatives are like, can you actually make money? Can you build a brand? Can you, have a lifestyle off being an artist? Watching the Picasso doco and realizing you could paint on pots, how did you go to someone? If you don't follow Bobby's work, it is so good that it gets copied around the world. We were having this conversation earlier. I think Target in the US, was it? Yeah, fucking everyone has copied Bobby's work. And microphone. Yeah.
Sorry, microphone. I'm not like delusional enough to think like I paint shapes.
But it's a very unique brand. Yeah. It's a very you though, in terms of like how you like a Bobby Clark.
The thing that gets me is like, I'm a hard worker. I've worked since I was 14. Come from Scotland, man. We're skint. So I'm just used to working anyway, and I just feel like anything you want to do, you can make it happen. You've just maybe got to, if you need to do something on the side. I'm never embarrassed. I'll clean a toilet. I'll do any job. Like genuinely, I'll clean my friends' toilets just for fun. But I've always like never been shy to do anything, and I just always thought like I've never gave myself a second option of not making money from it. Like I've always like I kind of bounce between photography and art, but I never really thought of not doing it as an option. You find a way. And I'm lucky enough that I guess they did sell. But the thing that annoys me the most is seeing all like direct copies of my work and being like, fuck, I would have really loved the money for that. That would have been great. I could have went to Europe. I'm not in Europe. You know? I just think that it's hard not to get pissed off at the amount of money and thinking of like, oh God, if they just paid me for that, that would have been bloody great. But they didn't, so it is what it is. And I used to care. I used to get really upset. But then also like the amount of energy that you're wasting on someone who's copied your stuff, I'm like, I could just, it's mine, it's came from me, I'll just go and do something else.
Yeah.
You're gonna jump
I
in
was
on
just
that?
going to say that if I had $1 for every time someone came to Clubs Up and went and did their own thing, like you just have to support it and be like, great, there's enough for everyone, and it sucks.
Nothing's original at the end of the day. Everything's been done and we're evolving, and you've just got to go.
That's the make your mark thing too, of being like, well, if you carve out what you are, and I think Chris, that you're talking about that, like your identity and bringing that into it, you know, also as a queer Indigenous person who doesn't like being really professional and like, you know, tick box as a business coach and a creator, it's like, oh, I carved that out from the beginning, was like, I'm going to stick to that too, even when people come along to be like, no, you should, you know, be more like this.
And I've always thought about the idea that if a space feels hard for you to break into, then when you get into it, don't expect it to be easy. It's not built for you, which is really bad. And a lot of systems are not built for a lot of diversity, and I mean that in every which way, diversity of like neurodiversity or diversity of culture, just diversity. They're built for a certain kind of person. And I think a lot of the time we fight to get into these spaces, and then we're really disappointed that they're not easy, that they don't accept us and they're not easy. You've got to get into those spaces, work hard to get in those spaces, but then work to try and change the space and try to think what that work looks like. And that's also what I've thought about in terms of my identity, that I'm very identity focused, because I like to think that if I can lead with identity, then hopefully other people who share those identities can see that, but also then
it can't
space,
be copied.
They can't be, yeah. And also that then they know there's some diversity there. Yeah. You know, sometimes diversity is, you need to name the identity or come out as the identity for people to understand that diversity in that space. And I think that can be powerful in some, both online and other spaces.
Yeah. As people who all three of you either love being in control or very busy and multitasking, how have you used your online presence and your websites to help to grow and scale your business? What kind of tools and things have you used? Because I think that's, you know, what we all learnt in COVID was pivot and diversify, and our favorite words, you know, Dan Andrews. Like, but how have you done that in terms of scaling beyond just yourself and selling time for money?
I think COVID, I mean, it took away a lot, but then also it highlighted the fact that connection is everything. So for me, using Squarespace to connect, not just through selling something, I started offering art classes because I really missed being around people, and I actually love just meeting new people. I love teaching. I used to lecture at White House, and I was like, God, I really miss being around. My job is very insular, like, and I am not an insular person. I'm like, I need to be surrounded with people all the time. So finding different ways to connect with people, and other than just like, here's something to buy, because that's all we were fucking doing for 2 years. Sorry, I swear like a fisherman. But like, it's all, I felt like, and during COVID, it's like all you could do was shop, and it got to a point where everyone was like, oh, because I'd done it. I was like, I have everything that I could ever possibly want. Like, I don't actually want anything for my birthday because I've got everything that I want. There's nothing that I want more than freedom and connection. So it was nice to be able to actually use it as a platform to connect with people through workshops. But now they've got, well, I need to actually brush up. My Squarespace needs a bit of TLC, to be honest. But even doing stuff online, I'd love to do online workshops, because there's a lot of people that are in Sydney, or even like I've got quite a lot of clients in New York, and being able to like include everyone globally in something that we connect in is great.
Was that the precursor to your book?
That was actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So doing those art classes during COVID through your website, and then ended up getting a book deal out of it. Incredible.
Yeah.
So
And that
good.
was, everyone goes, how do you get a book? I literally got invited to a book launch, a kids book launch at the Heidi. I can sense an opportunity in the creak of a window. And I just emailed someone. I was like, hey, can I have the publisher's email? And I was like, I've got a book pitch. And then it happened.
I love that. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Have a brass neck, as I say, as Scottish people say.
What is it?
Have a brass neck.
It was just
I feel like you can't. There's certain things you just can't translate, but it's like you've got a brass neck means you're
Stick your neck
brazen,
out.
like you're not shy.
Yeah.
It's really hard to translate. Just say I've got a brass neck,
Okay.
and they'll get it.
No, I love that, because it's also that rinse and repeat, of like, oh, I'm going to stick in my lane and do my thing and carve out my brand and be really clear about what I do. And then other people are clear about what you do, and then they can bring opportunities or say yes and be like, oh, yeah, we see what you do. Here's a book deal. Like it makes sense. What about you guys?
Yeah, mine. So what I loved about the website was I actually had to sit down and decide what on earth I was doing. There's something about a website that makes it real, that you're putting it out there like this is you, and I hadn't really thought about that, and so I reached out to like friends of mine that work in things that I never knew what they were. Those friends that work in things and you hear about it, you're like, oh yeah, brand collective management, or like, oh, you're that. So I was like, oh, you're those people that talk those language. Who are they? And I went to reach out to those friends, told them I miss them, and use that knowledge. And then what they started talking about was values, and I was like, that I understand. I'm a psychologist that helps people understand what their values are, what brings meaning to their life, and how to live by that. And then I was like, oh, that's what you do in brands? You talk about what is the value of brand? I can do that. So I sat down and I was value-led then. I'm like, I've got this. I can be value-led. That's what I do. So I was value-led from the beginning. I'm not a visual, I'm not an artist. I would love to be. I love art. I love beauty. I love critiquing things. So I know what I like. But where I started was font. I love fonts. I love stationery and fonts. And so I spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about the font that represented my values. And that's where I started the Squarespace. And then I went to colors, and again, led by my values. So what I wanted a website that felt somewhere between professional, like you would trust, like it's important as psychologists that you trust them, that they've got some evidence or study behind what they're giving you. So I wanted it to feel like you would trust it, and it was like had some evidence behind it. But I wanted it to feel like accessible and like friendly and like fun, and playful. And they were like my value words. So that's where I wanted the Squarespace from the beginning. So I started with font. I went with Campton and Galaxy Copernicus. And that then was the Instagram was the same font. I was very like all my posts. They were just font on like cream background. So the font was everything. And then the font then became the Squarespace. And what I loved is, so then I was value-led, and then I had thought about the different tiers of my business and what I do. They became, because I had to work out the different parts of the website. And what I've loved about the website, the Squarespace from the beginning, is how it's grown with me. So I've changed quite a lot of what I do now, and now there's a whole area of the website which I never had before. So when I run a workshop now, you click on it and you get a password, and that opens up part of the website that gives all the resources for the workshop and everything like that. So I've been able to sort of grow with it over time and shift and change, but the font has remained the same, and the colors have remained the same, because they mean. Yeah, that font means a lot to me. I'll stop talking about font.
You just told everyone your font,
is-
so they're going to go and copy it. It would be so special.
Font is everything. I think, I don't know, it was really interesting because, and it's something that I constantly wrestle with, is that my business is entirely offline, and that's where everything happens offline. And I think, yeah, I had to find a way to communicate like what happens offline online, and yeah, just the imagery, and I guess just it looking nostalgic and fun and nice and accommodating and just like simple. I don't know, I feel like my website is so basic, but yeah, just making it feel and look like you're looking at pictures of your own friends and you're like seeing, like you could just slot yourself in very easily. But yeah, that's the only thing that I thought about when I was building my website. Like, how do I just so quickly communicate what the vibe is and the warmth and everything? Because so often I get people like, oh yeah, I know what Club Sub's about. And then they come and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea exactly what it was like. And like, you know, they leave and they're like on such a high. And so yeah, I feel like that's impossible sometimes unless, yeah, you come to Club Sub. But yeah, it just, a lot of images, no fonts, no words, really. But yeah, just vibes.
I mean, I think it's there's statistics that go around, but you know, majority of people's decision nowadays, especially, is made behind closed doors. So as business owners who have things to offer, people are stalking us, they're adding to cart and just letting it sit there, or they're, you know, saving it to a Pinterest board or a whatever, and they're determining whether you're the right person, they trust you, or whether it's like they want to come to your event or invest their spare money in your artwork or whatever, you know, go to their class. So it's like, I always think that a website is like your front of house, and it's like, we actually, when we did this event in Sydney last year, the analogy that we kind of came up with is that Instagram or social media is like the person out on the street like waving the board and being like, hey, like, or like that big twirly finger thing, being like, go in there, and they point in, and then they come, and the website is like, hey, welcome, and here's what we have to offer.
And it's a space you're in a lot more control of and a lot more flexibility. Like, accessibility was a big part of what I wanted to do from the beginning as well. And the thing with Instagram or a lot of those social media, you don't have a lot of flexibility to do things in a particular way. You have to do them in their way, and they're also then owned by them, and there's lots of problems. There's many, we won't go there. But what I love about the website is being able to do things in an accessible way. So a lot of Instagram, for example, my posts were like words on images, and that's obviously not accessible to be able to read and understand by a lot of people. So what I loved, the website then was where I was able to write those in text, write those in the text that I want, to add the audio, to add the accessible sort of content. So I love that, it was that waiver outside, like getting people in, and then I could make sure the website, I had a lot more freedom to make the website something that could cater for accessibility and cater for in the kind of way that I wanted to connect with people.
Which is a fun question. If your website was a staff member, what would their job title be? And what is their role description? Dot points. No, I'm just kidding.
My website would be my job description, which is everything. Everything and anything. I do everything myself, which is so stupid. Like, hire someone. But also I'm a control freak, so I like being in control of absolutely every decision. And my website is literally a mirror image of me. I want to be able to do everything. I don't want to have to go and hire someone to like change stuff. I want to be able to do it myself and teach myself.
And I think if you're creative, you come up with ideas on the fly, and you're just like, oh, I think that's I had a dream. I think that's a great idea. I'm not even going to run it by anyone. I'm just going to put it on my website.
I don't research anything. I just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll find a way. I'll watch a video. I'll jump on YouTube and I'll do it myself.
Yes.
Probably the backwards way to do it, but
yeah. Love. No.
Yeah. Do everything the hard way.
Yeah. So your avatar is your website.
I'm everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine would hopefully be like a knowledgeable bookseller, because you kind of come to and it's all words, and then you come to me and I just have words and talk to you. It's all. So I would want them to be like, you come and you tell them what you want, and then they point you to the right book. So in mine, they'll point you to the right blog or the right kind of area, or connect you with me. But hopefully a kind of book, because I love I published a book last year, so I got to meet a lot of booksellers. Booksellers are the best people in the world, independent booksellers, and one here tonight. Woo! And so I would love that energy in my website. Yeah.
I think mine is just like an ops gal. Like, you know, she's just getting you a ticket. That's all she's doing, you know, like she's just, you've seen the vibe on the gram. You're like, yes, I'm in. And then you're just scrolling through, what do you need? And she's finding you what you need. So yeah, definitely like head of ops, I reckon. Like, yeah, that's what my website is.
Yeah, love that. She's like, hey, I got good tickets.
Yeah,
for you.
like, hey, you know, that role that you wanted.
Got
like,
you a seat
I've
at
got
Friday
you,
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love. How do you all juggle yourselves between the admin and doing the business, but then creating? Like, you know, obviously there's the back end. And I think this is a common struggle as creatives, entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, people with ideas and maybe in jobs. How do you juggle your time between needing to actually make art, run supper clubs, do psychology appointments, and also create content that builds communities so that you can kind of stand out and make, you know, a name for yourself?
I think like when I first started the club, I was working part-time to actually no full-time and doing club stuff on the side. And I think it got to a point where I had like a day off a week for like a year. And that was crazy. And so now I've really kind of leveled back. And I think that the best way to approach it for me has worked, where I try to view it like a 9 to 5 and like have a corner of my head that's like very HR. And so it's like if I'm hosting an event on a Wednesday night, okay, so that was 2 hours. Like, where are we carving that time out for you to like make sure that like you at least get an hour to like go for a walk, or like during the week where, I don't know, because I just think when you have your own business, like you could just be on all the time. And I think that, yeah, like Instagram and my website, like I do not switch off from it, because I'm always like, oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, I could be doing that. Oh, maybe I should make that content, or maybe I should tweak that part of my website. Maybe I should write that EDM. And it just never stops. And I think that, yeah, having like very strict boundaries, also deleting my Instagram between the hours of 5:30 p.m. Like as soon as I finish work for the day, delete the Instagram and then download it the next day. Wow. It's the only way. Otherwise I am like plugged into the matrix. Like it is bad.
That's the most, the screen time, just downloading, deleting.
Because I find it sucks my creativity. Like it like numbs me to everything. And I think like the minute I take a break, I'm like so much clearer on like what I want to do, how I want to do it. And then, in the shower, everything just comes to me.
I like to use like the juggling analogy. I feel like I very comfortably drop balls all the time. I'm fine with dropping balls. I just pick them back up when I can, and that's what my juggle looks like. And sometimes it's really okay to just put a ball down for a while, and come back to it. I feel very comfortably being kind of okay at lots of things, and I think that's what allows me to do all of the things. Is I accept the feedback. I know I'm not doing it great. I know I'm not like amazing. I know I'm not I know I'm learning all the time. I'm not an expert, and I think that attitude helps me just be able to keep juggling, even though I know sometimes I'm going to drop and pick back up.
Amazing. I take zero time for myself. Yeah. I actually went and I spoke to someone and they're like, what do you do for yourself? And I'm like, I go to Pilates. And they're like, that is not time for yourself, that is exercise. And I was like, well, nothing. But I did, at the start of the year, me and my husband employed an accountant I am not good with anything financial. I've got the creative brain, I did not get the maths brain. So we hired an accountant, and it's been an eye-opener because I'm so trusting. I am so bad with getting paid. I forget to invoice people. I just genuinely love working. And then I'm like, I work so much. Like, I should have more money than I do. And then my accountant's actually, I'm just going to tell you the number. He's like, babe, you've got $37,000 outstanding. People don't pay you. And I was like,
Bobby,
That's why I'm so
insane.
scared. I know. And I was like,
Are you okay?
Europe. You could be in Europe, babe.
You literally could be in Europe.
I know. So the past 2 weeks I've been like chasing people, some of them friends, like, hey, remember that?
Yeah, pay me my invoice tomorrow.
Hey, remember this? And then there was like 2 years ago, never getting that money back. I think there's still like a large sum that's never going to get paid. Like just sending paintings before money's even landed.
Bobby, that's
I know.
bad.
So I do everything myself, which I'm learning is like delegate the tasks that you're not good at because you will be poor. You will get a fright when your accountant goes, he sent me a spreadsheet and I was like, what's that? And he's like, yes, it's serious. And I was like, he's like, in a financial year, you need to pay tax on all of that. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
You're like, can you put it into drawing form?
Like, can you just chase them for me? And he does, bless him. And he does everything for me now. Any forms, even like non-work related, I'm like maternity leave. I was like, can you, which I don't get. I was like, can you apply for that? Like he does everything. So what was the question?
Why are we here? I've lost my, I'm just like, keep talking.
I get lost and I'm like, what was the question? I forgot it.
I don't want to
just-
get
I
too
actually can't remember it
psychologist on
either.
you.
So.
Yeah.
But there is something, this is really common. When you do something that follows your passion, you forget that you should charge for it, right? And it's really common I see a lot of freelancers and artists in my work, and it's really common to do all the work, stay night after night to get the job done, and then not do the 15 minutes it takes to invoice, and then not follow up on the invoice.
Couldn't be me.
And it is, and again, I don't want to get too deep or anything.
It's self-value.
It's self-worth.
Yeah.
It's actually realizing you're not doing this because you're just passionate. That's part of it, but you're doing it because you have a lot of worth to people, and this culture. We pay for that. And actually be able to sit down and know when you invoice, actually think about that I have worth and this is why I'm invoicing. You know, this is the moment for that bit. And
This is my year's work.
Yeah.
I've actually got a mentor who is a friend who is amazing with she's like in impact investment, deals with big companies and how to invest their money. And I'm like, can you just come and like sort my life out? Because someone can be nice to me for 3 seconds and I'm like, oh, just have it. Just take it. Come in, take whatever you want. And then I'm like, actually identifying, I think that's one of the key things is identifying your downfalls and working them out. Because I'm great with people. I'm great at doing all the things. I'm great at all the creative things, but every other aspect.
And I think that's the
It's hard.
difference between coming up with a great idea and being like, oh, I can throw a dinner party, and being like, yeah, but how do I make it a viable business?
But yeah, I think like, I don't know, I think something snapped in my brain when, I don't know, a year ago. And I was like, we are so good at this. And it's like almost like it's a part of me and like, good luck. We do a great job at it. And yeah, when it comes to like, we get approached by brands now and I'm like, yep, so this is the rate. And so often, and I don't know, like, not to play into this, but like, I don't know if it's because like I'm a woman and I, own a business that is about connecting. And I just remember talking to a man with a very similar business once, and we were talking about an idea. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this unless I get paid $5K. And I was like, oh, like, I'm just here with my little old business, like, so happy to be here. And like, I think that's what made me snap, where I was like, no, like, those hours of like thinking while you're falling asleep and like dreaming about your job and like, taking time to be creative is like what you should be paid. That's what people should be paying you for. And it's like,
Creatives are never paid.
I know, but they should be.
That's, I know. And we're never taught. The thing that blows my mind, like I'm starting to get in the phase where my son's old enough and he's going to school. I'm like, why aren't we taught about money in school? Why aren't we taught about money in school? Why aren't we taught about investing? And I've got this massive interest of investing now. Like, we should have all invested our money. I've lived in different countries, so I don't have a super or a pension. Me and Steve are both the same. We're fucked when we're old. We need to work until we die now. But I'm like, we should have been taught investing and like how to properly price. That's something in artists as well, that the most common question I get asked is like, how do you price yourself? And I'm like, you guess. Seriously, because Like recently, I put a price in for something and they're like, no, I'm going to put that up for you. And I'm like, I'm actually going to start something with my friend who's a freelancer, and it's going to be a closed group for creatives, like creating a benchmark where you can come and look at pricing, because no one tells you. It's very guarded, and you're just left to your own devices to imagine your own worth.
Yeah,
Which,
you gotta
if you're an artist, you're like $5.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this before. That
Yeah, take it, Target US.
but like Melbourne's very good. There's like quite a few group chats going around, so you just gotta, like, people are so transparent in, like, I don't know, just ask as well. Like, I think people really are quite transparent on how they do it. And like, that's how I've learned to like charge what I charge
And
to
adding
do.
on tax.
Yeah, and GST, everything,
So I just
all
done
of it.
the art classes, right? And my husband came home and he's like, what's this giant box in the hall? And I was like, it's canvases. So everyone paints a canvas during the class. And he's like, how much did you pay for them each? And I was like, $11 each. And he's like, okay, so you charged $80 for the art class. How much are you paying for the space? I was like, $300. And he's like, and you get a canvas. And he's like, and deduct nearly 40% tax for you, honey. So you make $0. And I was like, fuck, why didn't you tell me this before?
Don't worry, I'll make it for my book deal,
Yeah.
said no one.
Yeah, no. That's a laugh, isn't it? Yeah, you don't make money from books.
Chris,
Slide that in there.
how do you work with a lot of creatives where everyone's talking about their value and their self-worth and, working probably too many hours and not getting paid enough. I know you talk about separating your sense of self from your work as people who love what we do. There's probably a bunch of people in the room right now with ideas who have either started businesses or want to start businesses doing what they love. How do they not end up hating what they love or hating themselves because they've decided to start a business?
Wow. Yeah, so just in a couple of minutes, I'll fix all this for you. One thing I would say is and this is hard work, but get to a place where your work is an important part of who you are, but not who you are. And that's hard in a creative space. It's hard in an online space when you are in your work. And a lot of artists and creatives I work with, either their life is in the video or on the page, or they're part of the story. And because what happens when your identity is your work, then judgment of your work feels like judgment of self. And there is nowhere that's more ready to judge you than the online space. It's like a creative entrepreneur. Like there's so many spaces where you are basically trying to prove your worth day after day after day. The only way you can maintain that is underneath that, you have a secure sense of worth that is different from that. And this goes back to values, like I was talking about before. When it comes down to what do you base your self-worth on, if not money or likes or followers or whatever it might be, you base your worth on your ability to live by your values. And I still do this, when I put my head down at night and my brain's going all the, like, well, you didn't do right, or you didn't do that, and if you did that differently, you would have been more popular. You did that, I notice that and go, thanks, brain, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to protect me, you're trying to do that thing, but what I'm going to do is think about how did I live by my values today, and let that define my self-worth. And I've been doing this as a psychologist for 12 years, and still it is a practice that I have to practice because it does not come naturally, because as soon as you step out of the door, capitalism tells you should judge yourself in a different way. So it is a practice that you can choose to every night. What are my values? How did I live through them today? And try and let that define your worth and separate your work from your worth. And then that's a hard, lifelong journey, but that's what I try and help creatives do. Yeah.
We joke about money, but I know for a fact that I would not change what I'm doing for anything. I would do it for free. And like I joked about not making...
You do it for free.
Yeah, yeah, I know, let's be honest. But even there's not a lot of money in books, but I still... a book is legacy, right? And I would still do it. If somebody was like, I'll publish it for you, but I'll not pay you, and I'd be like, oh, fuck, I'll probably still do it. Because it's like a challenge, and it's like if you're a creative and you're in charge of setting goals and stuff for yourself, it's like there's more to life than money. And I've literally grew up with none of it, so it kind of doesn't matter if I don't have it.
And I think like it comes back to like what you were saying about like the lane. Like it's like, I think we all understand, like I'm always like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And it's just for me. And if in 5 years it's not working, that's fine. If it doesn't work next year, that's okay. But as long as we're just going to keep doing it and keep doing exactly what feels good in like my gut and what feels like aligned with like my community and like what would they want, like nothing else matters. And I think that that's also like when we are working with brands, I'm like, do you as a brand, do you get it? And then if they don't, then it's like, no, like just, I guess, having clearly exactly who you are and exactly what you want and like not faltering from that, because I know that every time I've faltered from that, it has been like the worst thing and I don't like it and I'm like icked by it, and it's always the thing that like my brain at night is like, Sophie, why did you do that? And it's like, no, you just have to like, it's almost like you have to write it down. Like I found like journaling and just writing the shit down and just being like, this is why we're doing it, and like it's the only way.
Because you'll never regret doing something that aligns with your values. Even if it doesn't go well, you eventually are okay with it because you did it. But you will regret trying to do something for popularity that doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And trying to separate those two is
and
such a big
Instagram
thing.
and like TikTok, like the amount of times I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be like Gen Z. No, it's not who I am.
Yeah. Oh,
I
God.
love Laura from Clothing the Gaps spoke at an event, and I remember her saying, you know, she works in Indigenous organisation, clothing brand, and whenever someone says we want to collaborate, she's like, well, what do you post on the 26th of Jan?
Yeah.
And that's a very clear. And I think that idea of sticking to your values is like the point of difference that makes you stand out. It kind of gives you a bit of a navigation system.
Yeah, because like everyone at Clubs Up can smell a rat. Like as soon as we do anything that is off brand, everyone's like, what? Like it's like 2 likes. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
I think in this world of of AI and, you know, ChatGPT and things that can be replicated easy, we're actually craving brands that are authentic and that cut through and that are real.
Like when I started the club, I was like, it's not about me at all, because it's definitely not about me. But every time I post something about like my story, it like astonishes me how people relate to it. And like every time at the club, I'm always like, oh no, like you guys just have fun, like see ya, bye. Like, and they're like, no, like we want to talk to you. I'm like, yeah, but it's about, so I don't know, like just putting yourself out there is what I'm trying to say.
I think there's something interesting that you said, Sophie, too, about like what does the club need or the subs need? Like what does our community need? And I'd be really interested to hear from each of you, how have you grown with your brands? So, you know, like as, you know, these concepts to your online, you know, communities and people following and sharing your work, how have you grown with it? And I think, you know, Bobby, you mentioned like this idea of like, oh, I thought that, you know, we're disconnected, so I'm going to start an art class. Like, is it listening to the community? Is it going off your instinct? But yeah, what kind of things have you guys done to grow and scale your businesses with yourself as well as you've grown and scaled?
I think because mine's is me. Like it wouldn't happen any other way, because like the big part of Instagram is you're constantly connected to people and having conversations. Like I love having conversations with people, and also like I know it's like so boring, but like becoming a mother, you can't help, like there is a transformation, and you do connect with other people who went through it, and it does change you. And I think it becomes your little space. Like being an artist is really lonely. It's not one where you're constantly around people. I'm speaking on emails and I'm like, oh, that's so boring. So speaking to people like in DMs and stuff, although I'm pretty terrible at it because I can't keep up, but there's no way that you would have to be pretty like egotistical or disconnected to not grow from that, because people are right there telling you exactly what you need, don't want to hear 24/7. So for me, there's like no other way that you can't grow from that, because you're listening. And it's the most valuable tool. Like when in life before Instagram have you been able to do something, post it and see a reaction? You see visibly if someone likes it or not, because it's right there. And they'll tell you as well.
I think it's good though. It's like listening. You know, the whole thing is we get instant feedback, and feedback from your audience helps you decide what you do next.
Yeah.
But I think also the other cool thing about you is like, you know, difference in this panel as well is Chris is like, no, just put some picture, like some fonts on paper, versus Bobby who's like, this is what I had for lunch, or like you have
son
your son swearing at you, telling you to come because he's on poo or something. I'm like, I love your content.
Well, I can't not like that.
But that's you.
It
Like that would give
like
me
a
anxiety.
lie if I only shared what I do, because obviously you think about it, you're like, God, did I share too much? But like, well, what else am I going to share? I don't get to paint every day, and that's the reality. Like, I don't have any family here, so like, he is just as part of my practice as I was just when I was on my own. And I think that's another thing as well, is like showing that, because this is another business that I'm starting with my friend. It's like how we were both creatives, but then we became mothers, and it was like bringing our art practice into being a mother. It's like you can't separate them. They don't exist without each other because it's a constant. So it's like you just evolve on your environment and your circumstances.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you.
I think I've got okay at not growing. I think there was an appeal early on to just keep doing what you needed to do to keep growing, to keep getting more followers or whatever. And I think I found a place where I guess evolved to, or whatever, like with the brand, where I'm like okay for where it is. Like I'm okay to just do what I do and be value led and do and see where it's a part of my life. It's not all of my life, and I can see, and I'm kind of okay with just it's where it is. And I think it doesn't sound like growth. That's such a psychologist thing to say. It's actually been growth to just accept not growing anymore. But that's kind of where
You're also looking at building your online community. I think the part of when we were having a chat offline too was like, how do you give people resources and empower them without having to, fulfill your wait list?
Yeah, I think the growth early on, but now I'm interested by growth, kind of like StartUpcreative, growth in person. I think the great, I don't even know where to start with this, but social isolation and not feeling connected with each other is, Irvin Yalom, who's a famous existential psychologist, says that isolation is the universal symptom. So connection is the universal cure. And I've been thinking a lot about how to move the community from one space to the real space. So watch this space.
Shall we collab?
Yeah. I would just because every time I do a workshop or anything, what I've realized, my workshops used to be a bit more didactic, like me teach you a thing. Now I've realized the power of my workshops early on, especially after lockdowns, was just getting people in a room. And I was like, whoa, you all just want to be in a room with each other and talk about like well-being and mental health. Like you just don't do that enough, and just trying to create those spaces. I'm interested in growing that side of it as well.
I think you've just said exactly how I think I've grown. Like, I think when I started the club, I was like very like control the vibe, like make sure that it's like, manufacturing this environment for people to connect. And then I think as I've grown with it, I've just become way more fluid, and I'm like, oh, just let build it and they will come, and like build it and they will like just relax a bit, and it's okay, because I think I've learned that I need to make space for all the vulnerabilities in the room and all of the humans and all of the stories, like all the little icebergs that come into the room, because they just present to you like the tip. And just make space for that, and just like allow so much room. And I think that in turn has just like let me become way more fluid in the way that I run my business and the way that I'm gonna, let it grow, and very fluid, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been an incredible conversation from the just do it, and like these are the things that we love and that we wanted. So how could we get out there and make it for more people? But then, getting clear about, well, what is this and how do I actually articulate it and present it so that people understand it? And then once those people come, how do I listen to them and keep showing up and serving them and their needs and use that to grow and scale the business? I feel like that we just wrote a book, like how to start a side hustle or
It makes
something.
no money.
And do your invoices.
Yeah, do your invoices so you can go to
Keep a
Europe.
spreadsheet.
But
Someone to send your invoices for you.
yeah. But let's, before, I know, Sophie, you might have to duck off because we're
Yes.
close to 7, but we will open it to the floor if there's any questions that anyone out there has for our audience. Yeah, go for it.
Hi guys.
Hi.
I'm just wanting to know, apart from social media, how do you drive people to your websites?
That is
Yeah, sure. Hello. Hi guys. Apart from social media, how do you drive people to your websites?
I don't think about that, and I probably should.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't.
I think mine is, I do a lot of writing in I guess, publications, a lot of podcasts, a lot of radio, a lot of media, and I try to work in the website as much as possible, whether that's on the web, like on the podcast page or that sort of thing. But I think that organically grows a lot of people. Also working on your SEO.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to say that.
Which is something I learned about over time, but it makes a big difference to talk to someone who knows, for example, what SEO stands for. That's
Do you know someone? I need help.
I know someone, yes.
Yeah.
I am really annoying. I accidentally just got to the top of the Google search purely by accident. I'm one of those idiots who just does it by accident and don't know anything about it. But I should probably know.
I don't know. Yeah, just constantly I think I'm constantly just weaseling around. I know this sounds very corny, but I'm weaseling around Squarespace how-tos, and so far so good. You know, I don't know. It's good enough without obviously hiring an SEO specialist. Because next person.
What's the biggest mistake that you've made along the way that now seems inconsequential?
Oh, inconsequential. There's no. I've rationalized myself out of any bad mistake. I'm like, oh, it was a great thing to learn. When I first started, I spent so much money on a logo that I used for 2 weeks, and I hated it. And all just because I tried to convince myself that I needed to be someone that I'm not and be a big, awesome, brand. And I had my roommate and really good friend at the time, literally opened my notebook and was as if you are not using any of these branding things, which are now my entire branding. And so, yeah, that was probably the only biggest mistake that I made, where I was why didn't I just back myself and, try and be something I'm not? Any mistakes, anyone?
I've got one. Mine's, but I've talked about it earlier, but my biggest mistake was maybe not being switched on enough in that tech world. Just because you're not techie doesn't mean you can't be across or have someone. And my biggest thing was knowing that there was such a high volume of people on my website globally and nothing to buy is so bad. It's really shocking. But to be honest, there's not a lot of things that I do and make mistakes and regret. I feel like mistakes lead you. The biggest mistakes I've made in my life, although there's shit to go through, you always get the most from it. So I'm not scared to make mistakes. And you touched on that earlier, it doesn't need to be finished and perfect. When you reach perfectionism, it means that you're done. Really. If you achieve what you want, you're done. That's the way I look at it.
You're done.
That's my excuse anyway.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of mistakes that I feel inconsequential. I think mine is, it's still present, so it's not inconsequential yet. So I haven't written a second book. You're meant to write a second book. You're meant to do it quite quickly. You're meant to, and I don't, but I actually, I actually don't care about it. I probably should, I think, but I don't have a book in my mind yet, so I haven't forced myself to do it. So I think the mistake is probably not doing it, but I do actually I don't feel so bad about it. Yeah.
When did you write the first one?
Came out last February 2022.
Yeah, well, you've got a book
February
hangover.
2023. Yeah, I've got a book hanging over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right.
One will come. If anyone has an idea, let me. What do you want to know? Yeah, what do you want help with? Let me know.
Any other questions out there? No, we're doing pretty good. Oh, yeah, here.
Oh no, not the microphone. Hello. You talk, and I know a lot of psychologists talk about identifying values.
Yes.
How would you suggest that people find their values? And would you say that personal values are different from creative or professional values?
I would say the ideal is that your personal values, professional values are all the same. That the aim is that you can live authentically, live by your values across all the domains of your life is the ideal. Very difficult to do, and you'll come up with values clashes at work all the time. But that's okay to notice, but you can still live by your values within any context. How do you find your values? Well, in 1 second, I can get you all to do something now that'll help you get there. Close your eyes. Just close your eyes for a second and imagine it is your 80th birthday party. And imagine everyone is there, all the people you love, it's wherever you want it to be, on a beach, on a yacht, on a penthouse, wherever your party is. Look around, what's happening at the party, what food is being served, and then imagine at some point during the night, the crowd parts and someone gets up on a stage and a microphone and describes the way you have lived your life. Not what you have achieved, but the kind of person you have been. How do you want them to describe the kind of person you are, the way you've treated people and the way you've lived your life? Now you can slowly bring your attention back to the room. If you've got a bit of paper or a phone around, you might like to write some of that down, but that's your values. The things that you want people to see you as, you want to live your life by. And when you are living by these, it feels meaningful. That's how you get there.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chris. That's awesome. No? I might just quickly... maybe just to finish us off then, unless there's any other questions, we've all mentioned a few books here tonight. Chris has got a book, Bobby has got art class, I've got How to Start a Side Hustle.
Sophie doesn't have a book.
Not yet. If
Anyone
any publishers in the room that would like to offer a book deal, she is available. But we also are supporting a local bookshop up the back, QVWC, who have kindly stocked our books. We also have other fellow authors. Fiona here is got a book, and so yeah, authors all around the room ready to sign your books and support local bookshops. So if you want to grab those, they'll be on. There's still snacks and food here. But before we do that, what would your number one tip be for somebody out there looking to turn their passion into a viable business that they can scale through and recession and COVID and all the things that life throws at us? But what's your number one tip for people out there who are like, I've got this idea, I want to make it a reality and I want to stick at it?
Mine's, as I've said it already, just do it. Literally. If you need to do a side hustle and you need to do 12 jobs on the side, if it's really what's going to make you happy, you will do it. Just do it. Don't think of it doesn't need to be perfect. Get it done. Get it done. That's another one, so I'm not ripping off Nike. Get it done.
Yeah, copyright. I think mine would be, don't put the least amount of your own money into it. Like, let it show you financially that it can sustain itself. Like, let it be a self-sufficient baby, basically. Like, that's how I started the club. Like, I think I put the silly logo in. Like, that's how much money, and that's all I did. And for 2 years, I had to let it regurgitate and show me that it could make a profit. And then that's when it became a full-time job. So do not put your own hard-earned, if you're at a full-time job, let it live. Just keep working at it and it'll grow, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's a bit similar. I would say focus on sustainability, not success. Because success it's not a real thing. We spend a lot of time trying to get this thing that doesn't actually exist. But focus on sustainability. I mean, what is it that's sustainable for your health, for your well-being, but also for your business as well, and try and focus and think about that.
I really wanted to say get a sugar daddy. If I was single, I would.
What do you think about that, Chris? No.
I got one. I got it down. It's an easy way to be sustainable.
Oh, great advice. If all else fails, get a sugar daddy. Thank you so much to our incredible panelists, Bobby, Chris, and Sophie. Let's give them a huge round of applause. So generous, great advice. I am also so grateful for the incredible Alex from Squarespace, who reps Squarespace but also cares so much about creative entrepreneurs and the way that beautiful events look. So thank you to Alex from Squarespace. Let's give her a huge round of applause. It's an amazing... I told this story last year, but I was in a bit of a funk with my own business as a creative and, going through all the feels. And I decided that I would just be like, oh, well, business is slow. I'm just going to rebuild my website. And so I built a Squarespace website, and I was like, I'm going to put it into the world, and just kind of posted it. And with a couple of hours, Alex is like, I saw your new website. Do you want to work together? And so I think just doing it and getting yourself out there, you never know who's going to watch. And it's been an amazing partnership. And also to Shan and Angie from the Commons, who have hosted us the last 2 years and been huge partners in making tonight happen. Let's give those guys a big round of applause. So amazing to work with incredible female entrepreneurs and boss women too. And thank you to everyone for being here tonight. Please feel free to visit our bookshop. A huge thank you to our guests. And yeah, I think that has been a huge takeaway about just getting out there, starting, putting something out into the world through your own platform, like a website, and being able to take it into your own hands and see where it goes. And I think in a world that is ever changing and we don't really know what's around the corner, it's a really nice way to have a creative outlet, but also to safeguard yourself with, extra income or have creative expression as well, which I think most people in this room wouldn't survive if they weren't creatively expressing themselves. So these guys, I think, thank you for being an example that it can be done. It's not always easy and you do make mistakes, but you guys are living proof that it can be done. So thank you for being so generous and honest. Thank you. Please feel free to eat food so I don't have to eat it for the next 2 weeks like last year. Drink wine, pour yourself a beer or a salsa, visit the bookshop, come say hi to these guys, and have a fabulous evening. Thank you.